Okay, so welcome to the session. And the plan for today, as I was saying, is number one, we will have a short discussion on one of the topics, followed by the main event, meditation on twin hearts. And then we'll use the energy, excess energy to bless, to practice forgiveness together. And yes, Helen, we'll finish the meditation by 8 o'clock. Right. So, again, as always, it's a good idea for us to uh, just take a step back and understand why exactly are we here. It's a beautiful evening outside, quite nice. But all of us have chosen to sit in our rooms, get together here, and be here for the meditation. So there are many reasons why Master Chua always advises us to get in groups and meditate. Number one is the effect of meditation is exponential. When seven or more people get together, and hey, look at us today, we are more than seven, which is great. There's tremendous amount of energy which comes in and it multiplies. And it is equivalent to 50 or more people meditating, which in my simple head and simple math tells me that it is equivalent, one meditation is equivalent to at least seven in isolation. So people who are lazy, or if you don't like that, people who are more efficient, this is a wonderful way of meditating to maximize the effect. So that's why we do group meditation. Second is the fact that we commit towards coming together on a particular slot every week. That is constancy of effort. And that's the virtue that you'll talk about. But it takes commitment physically, mentally, emotionally for all of us to get together and do that. So we are actually, unknown to us, we are building a strong will by turning up the exact same thing every week. Third thing, and this is also very important, it pretty much takes all excuses out of the window for doing meditation. So if anybody says, I don't know when to, where to, all you got to do is turn up at 7 o'clock every Wednesday, and you will get to do your meditation at least once a week. So checks a few boxes. I'm not sure which one applies to whom, but or maybe all. I think it applies. Most of them apply to me, so I'm glad. So that's one big reason why we are here. The second thing which I want to emphasize, something special about today, we are meditating on a full moon. After the meditation is done, if you guys go out for a walk or look out of the window, you'll see a full moon. It's supposed to be very beautiful, and hopefully no clouds. Can't guarantee that. But the reason why full moon meditation is important is, again, it amplifies the amount of energy in the system. There are quite a lot of deep esoteric reasons to that, and we will not cover them here in this session, but for ones who are interested, please have a listen to Master Hector's lecture or Master Ko's lecture, and you will learn a lot about it. But from a very simple, practical perspective, the amount of energy, the amount of spiritual activity on these particular days, so 12 days in a year, is significantly higher than normal days. So again, we are trying to maximize our spiritual practice, or we are trying to maximize our meditations. And this is a very good day to do that. So coming together on a full moon day is fantastic. Out of all the 12 full moons, there are 3 which are super special, again, for various reasons, which we won't cover. But the practical implication of that is the amount of energy is significantly higher on these 3. It is the one which is tonight, then a month later, and then a month after that. And as we come towards those, we'll make sure that we find a way to meditate together on those as well. So that's the most important reason why we are here. Now, again, why is it that we are not diving straight into meditation, and why do we have these talks? That's also important to understand. So what we talk about typically is character building, and we will be referring to Master Chua's book. So everything that we talk about here is based on the teachings of Master Chua Kok-Sing, since all of you have done the courses, so that needs no introduction. The books we are referring to today are Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul. That's one. And short, I'll just call this the Soul book. It's easier for me. Second book for the day is one of the Lotus Sutras. It's called Compassionate Objectivity, the Golden Lotus Sutras on Character Building. Mine is slightly older copy. So those of you who have not come across these little gems, please do have a look. These are effectively, it's a collection of teachings by Master Chua Kok-Sing over a period of 10 years or so, based on the lectures that he conducted, and they have been organized very nicely into specific topics. So this one is on character building. And we will be looking, if time permits, we will be referring to the level 1 book, The Ancient Science and Art of Pranic Healing. If the cover confuses people, it's just because I have an older edition from a different country. That's about it. Okay. So again, why do character building? Let us listen directly to Master Chua. Well, I'm going to read it, so use your imagination. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So this is the Soul Book, page 223, if anybody's keeping track. When you do meditations, you have to practice yama or niyama or character building. Without this, there is a tendency to become worse. Why? After you have had good meditation, you feel blissful, right? But after 2 or 3 days, have you not experienced getting angry or being in a bad mood? I'm not sure how many of you have experienced this. I have, for sure. It took time, or let's say it took my wife to point it out to me that I'm angrier and more upset after doing meditations. But a lot of us realize something might get triggered. Need not be just anger or resentment. Meditating regularly is like being fertilized. Throw the fertilizer on the ground, and whatever is in the ground, either good or bad seeds, they will grow. Everything, whether vice or virtue, is magnified. So unless a person in the spiritual path practices character building, he or she may tend to become worse. So in short, character building is pretty much a safety protocol. Even though we may not experience it, even though we may not feel it, the meditation that we practice here today, meditation on twin hearts for peace and illumination, is an exceptionally powerful meditation. Do not let the simplicity of the meditation fool you, because the effects are tremendous. We are again, as I said, we are practicing in the group, so we are amplifying that power. We are practicing in a group on a full moon day, so we are further amplifying that power. So we need to take this a bit seriously. Hence, physical exercises are super important. Hence, the discussion and practice of character building is super important. Now I'm going to switch books and go to the Lotus Sutras. Just 1 second. The virtues are given to guide you. The development of the virtues must be balanced. And virtues are guidelines, or in very simple terms, the 5 virtues that are prescribed that all of us have come across in the book, level 1 book, and I'm sure it's covered in the class whenever you took that. These virtues are essentially, it's a framework, it's guidelines. And these help us develop in a much more rounded manner. Having said that, there are other things which we may want to develop. We may look at it differently, and there are no restrictions. Master Chua always talked about levels of truth, so which essentially means it doesn't mean there are only 5 virtues and there is nothing more to be done. No, but this is the framework that we are using, and this is the framework we will be doing. Another bit is, for some of us who have been here regular and who are thinking, why do I keep repeating the exact same things? I've got an answer for that also. So weaknesses have layers like an onion. They must be disintegrated again and again and again until they are replaced by the right thoughts, right words, and right actions. So for all of us, every Wednesday, we will keep discussing this again and again and again for the whole year in some shape or form. And we'll look at these from a different perspective. But it is important to continue to do that. There is, quite genuinely, there is no finish line, there is no end date, because when we're talking about mastering a particular virtue, in a different book, not on this one, Master Chua mentions very clearly that we talk about degrees of mastery. So just because we have been practicing something for some time, let's say a year, few weeks, months, whatever it is, it means we are better than we were on that specific virtue compared to maybe 6 months ago. But we can always do better, and hence we will continue to revisit them. And this little book is going to stay with us for pretty much the whole of this year for sure. Okay. But let's focus on today's virtue that you want to cover, which is constancy of aim and effort. Okay. So again, I'm referring to the book On constancy of aim and effort. If a person masters the virtue of constancy of aim and effort, that person is destined to be successful. So there's absolutely no doubt here. There's no maybe, it is a certainty. Constancy of aim and effort is the quality needed for greatness. Constancy of aim and effort is a manifestation of the will. Without the development of the heart, it will manifest as ruthlessness. So there's another safety protocol. Strong will, but with a developed heart. Another term for constancy of aim and effort is industriousness. Make a schedule. Schedule is a manifestation of emotional commitment, which is good. I mean, all of us are, well, slightly better. All of us have this virtue to certain degree because here we are on a Wednesday, made a commitment, turned up. So, well, you can pat your back and be happy about that. Nothing wrong with that either. Once you have a schedule, maintain the schedule. Do not let anything stop you. Follow your target non-stop. There must be a conviction in your work. A person who stands by his word must first see clearly, think clearly, and formulate the plan properly before making a commitment. To have constancy, you must have one-pointedness. Okay. Now, a few weeks ago, we covered the virtue of accurate perception and correct expression. And this is again something which we'll keep coming back to, because as you will see, all virtues in all these discussions, even in the book directly or indirectly, they're all interlinked. So the first thing before you have constancy of aim, you need to be able to think clearly and formulate the plan properly. Because there are two things which Master wants when we discuss the virtue of constancy of aim and effort is, number one, make sure the heart is developed so that there is no ruthlessness. Second, make sure you use discernment so that there is no bullheadedness. Being constant, having constancy of aim and effort in the wrong direction or without thinking is, I think, what was the term that he used in one of his lectures? It's like a bull in a china shop. So nothing is going to come out of all that force and power. So it is very, very important to keep these two things in mind. And we'll talk about these a lot in the next week, not this week. But next week we'll cover very specifically of how to use accurate perception, correct expression before we actually pursue on going ahead with any plan. But the last bit for the day, to have constancy, you must have one-pointedness. You must keep your commitments. You must be reliable and trustworthy. And you must stand by your word. Be one-pointed. Now, haven't you come across people, two kind of people I have seen, or I'm putting them in two buckets. One is if you ask them something, one set of people will tell us that, hey, let me think about it and I will get back to you. And they may take time. And if they do get back to us and say, okay, yes, I'm going to help you with this, or I'm going to do a particular task, maybe I'll pick you up from the airport, or I'll get you lunch, whatever small menial task or something big in our lives, right? People who take time to think and commit, they typically tend to honor it a lot more. On the other hand, you have people who would agree in an instant. You ask them something, yes, sure, I'll do that. You go home 2 hours later, 3 hours later, there's a text waiting for you telling you, oh, I'm sorry, by the way, I won't be able to do that. And we come across people like this all the time. Sometimes we are those people. Sometimes we make commitments without actually thinking and planning. And this is something which we are being warned about, that you must keep your commitments. You must be reliable and trustworthy. You must stand by your words. It's a very nice quality to develop, to be respectful of our own time and other people's time. For example, Helen has asked me to make sure that I finish at 8 o'clock, and I have agreed, so we have to. And that's kind of an expression of respect for each other's time as well. Be one-pointedness. Power comes from voluntary inner restrictions or one-pointedness in purpose and effort. If you have too many purposes, you will not have constancy. Okay, we will stop with the book here, but let's revisit the last point specifically about being one-pointedness. And I would like to just share a couple of things here. So bear with me. Let me know when you can see my slides. Can you? Anybody just give me a thumbs up?
Yep.
Okay, I've already covered everything comes from Master Sutra. We have been reading his books. But I pulled up some of my favorite quotations on this topic as well. But what I wanted to discuss was, and as we go along, we're going to break this down into many things. We'll talk about constancy of aim, we'll talk about constancy of effort, and we'll talk about non-laziness, one at a time. So let's spend the next few minutes just talking about constancy of aim. The most important thing maybe is to have a vision, to have a plan on what is it that we want to achieve. I mean, in case you want to accomplish something, that's the number one thing. But even more important is to focus all our energy and effort into that and not get distracted by many things. Now, a lot of times we come across situations, and this happens a lot at work, that maybe there are 5 projects to do. You want to do one project, and there are others that are distracting you. You probably don't like 3 of the 5, so it is very easy to let go. But now suddenly you have one more project which is competing in your attention. Maybe you want to do that and you want to do both, and it is very, very difficult for you to let go. And that is where the true willpower comes in. Letting go of things, which are easy is that's not discipline at all, right? When we're talking of constancy of aim, as Master said, right, you have to consciously. Sorry, where did I lose that? Let me read that again. He sounds much more smarter. Power comes from voluntary inner restriction or one-pointedness in purpose and effort. So, voluntary inner restriction. Even if you want to do something that is not part of the actual project that you want to execute, you need to stop that. You need to get yourself to put that aside and do what you need to do. Think of it from a practical perspective, right? Let's say you want to get up in the morning and meditate or work out or go for a walk. At the same time, you also want to watch a TV series on Netflix way past midnight. Both are nice, What the obvious, I mean, I've given you the answer in the example that I've picked, that yes, switch off the TV, go to bed at the right time, and because it is important for you to get up. Think about it the other way around. You're working on a very nice or very important project for your work or for your personal life, and you're really in the zone. It's midnight, and you're working on it, and you believe you're being super, super productive. But you have made a commitment to yourself: I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to do my meditation, or I'm going to go for a workout, or I'm going to do certain activities. You need discipline at that point to pull yourself back, switch off your laptop, and go to bed. That is difficult. A lot of us are not able to do that. I, for one, if you pick a nice, interesting book, it is very difficult to put it down. If you're watching something, it is difficult to do that, and that is where it is super, super important. And two of my favorite quotations actually one comes from Kipchoge. I don't know how many of you know him, but he's the world record holder in marathon. He's a Kenyan athlete. He's the first man, probably the only man to run a marathon under 2 hours. And he uses this term. He calls it get vitamin N. N for him is simply saying no. No to things that are going to distract you from your goal at that point. And of course, these things can keep changing. And learning to say no is one of the most difficult skills for some of us who believe that we are acting out of loving kindness, and saying yes is part of being kind and loving to others, are effectively deluding ourselves because we are taking our attention away from what we need to focus. The second quote that I want to, well, I'm sure everybody has already read it on the screen, but Steve Jobs used to do that. He would go to his project managers and he will ask them to focus on certain things. And then he'll ask them, what is it that you're doing? Then everybody will tell him 5 things that they are actually part of, and they'll ask them to drop them. Most people would be able to drop 2 or 3 things very, very easily because they might be admin tasks, they might be things that they're not really excited about. So asking someone, the boss asking it to drop it is very, very easy. But Steve Jobs will go ahead and say, no, I need you to focus on this. So even though you like the other project, go ahead and drop it. So when the guy who was working on iPhone, he wanted to work and develop something else, but he forced him to drop that project so that iPhone can actually come to the market at the speed that he wanted. Warren Buffett had this role. Warren Buffett he will get people to make a list of 25 things. and say, okay, what are your top 25 things that you want to achieve? Identify the top five. Then the answers typically he would get would be, hey, I'll make sure I spend very little time on the other things and I just do the other things as and when possible. And then Warren Buffett would tell them, no, you're missing the point. Those are the things which need to go on not to do list. So you like them, they're exciting, it's okay. You cannot do them right now. So if it comes to studies, for example, if you have decided, if you have signed up for a course, there is a deadline, you need to finish that, then that's what you read. Just because somebody comes and tells you that, hey, here's an exciting new course, here's an exciting new lecture, don't show up. You can't afford to do that. And that's where the discipline comes in. So saying no to bad or unappealing options is easy, but saying no to something that we really like, that's tough. And for us to actually practice this virtue, master this virtue, that's what we have to learn. We have to learn to say no to things which are going to distract us from that immediate goal. I'll take a pause. I've been talking for half an hour. So as we always say, this is a place to discuss, but I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. So if anybody has any thoughts, anything that resonates, or an example that they want to give, please feel free. Not today? Okay, not today. In that case, let us get ready to meditate. Why don't you all close your eyes for a minute? Just center yourself. When you say center yourself, it's effectively bring your attention back to within. Focus on your breath. Breathe in deeply. Hold. Breathe out. Hold.